We are gathered here today to remember the 2025-26 Milwaukee Bucks season, which may not officially have ended, but for all intents and purposes, it is over. Camille and I give the eulogy coming up next on today's Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in once again to today's episode of Locked On Bucks. I am Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day each and every day, and for also making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the industry. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. You can hear me on the Bucks radio network for at least 19 more games this season, and you can hear and see Camille as part of our weekly coverage of the NBA on the Locked On NBA podcast and the Technical Foul podcast as well. And I say at least, in all likelihood, 19 more times, Camille, because last night made that pretty abundantly clear. You know, the loss to the Atlanta Hawks, the fact that you struggled as much as you did to beat the Utah Jazz, who were actively telling you, listen,
you got it.
Take this from us. Please. Here it is. Please take this from us. We're going to sit Keontae George in the fourth quarter. Ace Bailey's only been okay this season, but we're going to sit him in the fourth quarter. Please just win this game. And we saw the Bucks continue to say, you sure you don't want to make this a contest? Like, let's at least talk about this here. And then just run off the floor by the Orlando Magic, which I think we all kind of anticipated coming, especially with the injury report. And, you know, you drew the short straw of having to go through that performance last night on the show, this morning's episode. So there's not much to add to it. I mean, everybody that saw it saw the same thing. It was a team that was outclassed, outmatched, not as much talent on the floor, obviously, with no Giannis and other players that were out. But it was once again another game where there was an opponent that very clearly knew what their identity was, what they wanted to do, and they executed it against a team that just looked lost.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like I've been saying, where it's beginning of March now and still don't really understand what the identity of the Milwaukee Bucks is at this point, outside of just being a consistently inconsistent team at this point. Orlando hasn't even been a team so far this season themselves that's been playing super consistent ball, but right now they have their sights set. And post-game, Bobby Portis, like I forget what the question was, but he was just kind of talking about Orlando, and he said, you know, along the lines of, you know, I've been on those teams, like the championship teams, and, you know, after All-Star break is when you really lock in. You have certain games on the calendar that you look at, and you're like, we cannot lose this game. Yeah. You circle those teams, and you understand, like, we're expected to win. So we have to win. Like, this is the time of the season now where you really dig in, you understand what your goals are, and you tighten up. The focus is supposed to be there. And for this Bucks team to see what has happened over the last 2 weeks at this point, it's baffling to a degree, but also kind of feels like a fitting situation for just how this entire season has gone so far. It's a team that just needs to really be completely reworked at this point.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it has to be completely reworked on all different levels at this point if they won't even have a chance to try to compete next season, because you can't have another season like this one. Like, yes, injuries played a part. Won't, you know, act like they don't. Yes, injuries also make it more difficult for guys to understand their roles because they are placed in different situations on a consistent basis. I get all that. But even with that being said, this can't happen again. Like, it's been one of those seasons, Justin, where it's like we look at the numbers or we watch the games, and it's like I can't, like, sometimes I can't believe what my eyes are actually seeing, and on a consistent basis. And it's been like that all season, to the point now where I just go into these games and I'm like, well, let's see what's in store for us now.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it would be very easy to say the Bucks just didn't have luck and they had injuries, and like it's true. we said, hey, this is a team that was built to basically optimize Giannis. And I talked about this on the radio show last night that, I suppose we didn't do a good enough job pushing back or at least questioning. So what happens if Giannis misses some time? Like we kicked it around like, well, things obviously change if he's not there. But yeah, I mean, and the reality is it was something you didn't want to think about because to your point, they are probably screwed as we've seen this season unfold here. But that was always the elephant in the room of what if he's not here for a significant chunk? How do you look then? And they just never recovered from it. Now it's been the opposite where I think they've grown accustomed to playing without Giannis. So when he comes back, then it's reworking things and like, oh, got to do things a little differently here. And plus, I mean, I think Giannis is probably not that he's not 100%, but it doesn't feel like we're seeing the same version of Giannis. And that dates all the way back to right around that Nuggets game when he went out, where it just felt like, doesn't really feel like he has the same burst and he's the same type of guy, which I would assume part of it is, this is 3 of those instances this season that I got to be really careful here, especially at this point in the season. I want to play, but the last thing I can afford here is some type of setback or injury this late into the season. And, for the injury component, like, yeah, they missed a lot of Giannis. Yeah, Kevin Porter Jr. has missed a significant chunk. And who knows if we'll even see him for the remainder of the season. As we heard from Doc, they're going to be extremely cautious with him going forward or take the cautious route, I think was the way he phrased it in his pregame comments yesterday, which when we're talking about the same knee that he suffered that meniscus tear, that doesn't sound great. And at this point, you'd probably be best served to just say, shut it down, focus on rehabbing, get healthy, and then we'll see where things go in the offseason here. But the team you played last night, like if you wanted to look at teams and say, look, they didn't make an excuse. I mean, injuries happen to every single team. Jason Tatum missed the first 60 games, basically, for the Boston Celtics, whatever the total is. And look at how they just continue to chug right along. Last night's opponent, the Orlando Magic, Paolo Banchero has missed only 10 games. But Jalen Suggs has missed 23 games. Franz Wagner has missed 34 games. Mo Wagner has missed 40 games. A lot of that is overlapped with one another. They only have one guy that's played in every single game this season, and that's Desmond Bane. So teams suffer injuries. You are not alone, and the only team that's going through that, even if you want to make the case, well, ours is more important than others, fine, but other teams are dealing with star players that are out and multiple players that are out.
And that's the thing, too, with like in Orlando, where they can point to their defense, which I think is like, 12th in the league? 13th?
Average, yeah.
Somewhere in that range. And that's been what they've been talking about throughout the year of like, hey, we're supposed to be better on this end. This is how we win. This is what we lean into. We have to be better on this end. Heard the same thing up in Detroit, where they've now lost 4 straight games. And you can hear Bickerstaff being like, listen, guys, if you don't come in every night and you don't execute to our identity, we will lose. It does not matter the opponent. You cannot turn this on and off. You need to execute to our identity. And in Detroit,
Boston,
their defense.
Boston, who's cracking the top 5 now after
because there's like, hey, we know we're going to play this style. We're going to play defense or offense. We know the flow. We know what we're trying to accomplish. So get out there and do that. You can't turn it on and off. And I haven't heard that messaging for the Bucks. What I've heard is we've changed our defense 5 times and we're searching for things and we can't necessarily
gotta get bigger.
Yeah, like we got to be better. We got to be better. We got to find it. But like, what is the it that you're trying to find at this point? Like the Bucks are the only thing that they've been good at this year is putting the ball in the hoop, like effective field goal percentage. And that hasn't even translated to the overall offense being a good one.
Yes, efficiently putting the ball in the hoop.
Exactly. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
And that can't be it. That can't be it. So, and yeah, it's been a crazy year.
So at the risk of losing everyone, there's some even more sobering numbers that I stumbled upon, and I talked about a few of them yesterday. But more I found this morning too and thought, I wonder how this looks. And spoiler alert, not good. So we'll run through some of those and what stands out the most to you. And again, the message of how is this team built? How are they going to play? What is their identity? And this year, if anything, should at the very least give you the answers on what you cannot do and how you cannot play and how you cannot structure your roster. So if there is a takeaway and a learning experience from this, it is that. We will get into that conversation coming up next. Well, there's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moments. Getting tickets, though, that's not always the easy part. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You pull up the Game Time app and just choose an upcoming NBA game, and you'll have tickets loaded within minutes. You even see the all-in pricing up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. And you're able to see the view from the seat before buying the ticket. So if it's somewhere other than Fiserv Forum, or you've never been to Fiserv Forum, you can see what your experience is going to look like all within the app. They have zone deals where you choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Plus, you can score tickets at the last minute with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. All in all, it's quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That is code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. Well, no better time to sign up for our Everydayer Club, where you do get ad-free episodes of every single episode of Locked On Bucks, access to the Discord channel as well, where you can interact and commiserate with the rest of us, myself, Camille, all of the true sickos that are out there. You can lurk into other subs as well and see how it's like to eat pretty well for the Boston Celtics. And, oh, man, I remember when we had Chris Middleton and other players making their return like they're going through. So you can live it all on the Everydayer Club in Discord. You get the ad-free episodes, the link to the Discord server, and some more things we're looking at adding as well for all of those that have been with us from day one. Exclusive perks when you become an Everydayer. You can sign up for the Everydayer Club in the show notes of today's episode. So I said there were some really, really, really great numbers to get into for this Bucks team. Let's just start with the big one. If it feels like, Camille, we have seen a lot of last night, it's because we have. It is the 8th time this season that the Bucks lose a game by 25 or more points. You and I were talking about this last night, and I told you, and it was one of those numbers too, where you're like, well, it's a fact. It's something that's happened. I don't feel like it's something I'm going to go out of my way to point out on the radio broadcast for this team. Even putting it on social, I'll give it a little bit before I put that one out there. But I told you, hey, this is the most in franchise history that they've lost by 25 or more points. And you asked me what was the previous record.
Mm-hmm. Because I thought I had the answer in my head. So I
think everybody thinks they have the answer. And the surprising part that it's not. Like, let that sink in, that a year that saw the Bucks win 15 games was not their previous record. They have lost by 25 or more points more times than they did a year where they won 15 games, lost 67. It was 2007, 2008, I believe, was when 7, the previous record. But 8 now, but you get to put that on the resume.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had to say that yesterday because I could not believe it, especially when you look at the fact that a lot of those losses have come over the last 2 weeks. Like you had that Knicks loss, that was by 29. You had that Celtics loss, that was by 27. Then you just lost to the Magic by 39. Luckily, they only lost to the Bulls by 23. So that doesn't get added to the ledger. But like it's the fact that 3 of those 25 plus losses came at home too. Like that's a crazy streak for this team to be on right now during a time of the year where they were looking to really start to turn things up and really try to get into this play-in chase. But instead they're just falling by the wayside, which ultimately is probably for the best for this team and prospects going forward, but does not make it any less disappointing having to watch this team go out there and lose by these types of margins. Like it's crazy to really think about that.
Yeah, it has been something else to go through, and it's I believe 7 home losses by 20 or more points, which is, I think that's tied with the most in franchise history, which I believe is also that 2007-2008 season. So, yeah, the long and short of it is it has not been great for the Bucks this season here. They don't, the silver lining, they don't have the most 25-point losses in the league this season. I think that's still Washington that has that, and it's double digits. So when they lose, they're losing badly. But the point differential for this team has not been great, and that is even more depressing to run through. I believe they are -2 in the minutes that Giannis is on the floor since like December. That has just, because remember earlier in the season too, we were talking about, man, Giannis is now past Jokic, and that was the big selling point of like, wow, they are really good with the starting lineup. It's just everything falls off a cliff when Giannis leaves the floor. And that has changed, which again, I think we talked about a little bit in the first segment, and that it's a team that kind of got used to playing without him, and now they have to readjust to that. But the difference in the net rating with him on the floor versus him off the floor was larger than what we see from Nikola Jokic on a yearly basis, and the largest of his career for that matter. And now that's really started to come down to earth here. So every single thing you point to, it just hasn't been great for this team. Scoring, you talked about the efficiency in which they are shooting the basketball, but they are the third lowest scoring offense in the league right now. Do you know the two teams that are worse than them?
I would assume we're thinking like Indy. I would think the Indy's below.
Close. The Bucks are 111.1. Indy is 111.4.
Oh Lord. Washington, and let's go Utah.
The Sacramento Kings,
of course,
110.6, and the lowest scoring team in the league is the Brooklyn Nets at 106.9. So hasn't been great there. The true shot attempts that we've talked about quite a bit this season here, they are still dead last in difference in true shot attempts on a nightly basis. And the difference is getting to be really, really stark for this group. That, if you look at losses, it's -4.2 that you're giving up more of those to the opponent than you're taking. And when you look at losses, it's -6 that they're giving up. So even in wins, the Bucks are still giving up more than 2 shot attempts to their opponent than they're taking, which that right there is where it starts and shows you not sustainable. Like Bobby said, it's fool's gold. Yeah. Let's start with that. Even if when we're winning, we're still giving you more chances to score, that's not going to hold up well. You're going to beat teams like Utah that are begging you to take it from him. The other teams you're going to struggle with. And that's, again, one of the big reasons why we have seen the Bucks lose to even bad teams, and by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before where it's like this Bucks team, if the offense is not working for them, they don't have a defense to lean on consistently. So it's really tough for them if they're not scoring a lot of points. And I've heard some people recently when looking like the Lakers team, a team that is pure offense, where it's like you're going to have to just outscore teams. Like that's your identity now. You're going to have to outscore teams. And I don't know if this Bucks team, even though like the efficiency is there for them, if that can be their identity for the rest of the season. But I did just see that the Bucks tweeted out their injury report for tomorrow's game against Phoenix. And Taurean Prince is questionable on the injury report. So listen, Justin, maybe Taurean Prince can be the guy that saves all of the Bucks' problems for the rest of the season whenever it is that he comes back, now that he's moved from questionable than just being that perennial out on the injury report.
By the way, I misspoke. It's -4.4 that the Bucks are allowing to the opponent. Yeah, even better. And, you've seen like teams like the Wizards, the Mavericks have been down there around them. They've started to get better, as you would expect, even for bad teams as the season's gone on. The Bucks have just continued to get worse at -4.4. Shifting gears here a little bit, but since our interest in the postseason is basically other teams and our thoughts in becoming league-wide analysts now, how much of a contender do you think the Denver Nuggets are?
They got a shot. They got a shot at it. It depends on
But
matchups.
what do you make of the last couple of months here? And we're not going to turn it into Locked On Nuggets, Matt, and the company do a good enough job of that. There is a point, I promise you that, and I'll circle back to it. But the struggles and everything else, like, what do you attribute that to that we've seen recently for this group?
Well, I mean, that's another group too, if you want to talk about injuries, affecting what they have going on too, where their starting five hasn't really played that much time together at all. But I think for Denver, for them, I would point to that aspect of it. But I mean, even still, they tend to have the depth and whatnot to kind of keep working through it. So Denver is one of those teams where, for me, I think it's more so like on the nights where either the offense doesn't have it, because generally defensively they tend to be all right. So I would think more often than not is when the offense just tends to fail them, or if you ask them, they run out of time to try to make that final victory.
Here's why I bring it up. I get a lot of couple years ago Bucks vibes from the Denver Nuggets, where it's starting to feel like, oh, buddy, be careful what's behind that door, because we've been down that path before, and just be careful. Denver is the good team that's in that group with the Bucks, the Bulls, the Wizards. And this isn't just, well, since Aaron Gordon went out. They've been there all season long. They've been winning in spite of that. But they right now are number 6. They have given up the 6th largest difference in true shot attempts. And that's been pretty consistent throughout the course of the season. And again, like, that's one of the tells, is possessions are really important. And when we get fast forward to mid-September next year, Camille, we can probably knock out our season preview episode now. I mean, we may have to just leave gaps where we can go in and overdub player names and potentially people on the bench names as well. But we know the Bucks and everyone else, what they're going to talk about is maybe not so much 3-point shooting and pace. It's going to be, we have to force turnovers and we have to crash the glass. We have to get more possessions than our opponent. Like, that is legit. I cannot tell you how many coaches we have heard in the last couple of weeks call that out. And I know we're running over here, so I do want to wrap that point, because Jamal Mosley made the same point yesterday. And this, more than anything, should be very, very sobering to hear in your building repeatedly by the opponents, and not recognizing we should probably do the same thing. So we'll get into that conversation coming up next. You know what time of year it is? It is tax time. But for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes, it's a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that is not the most convenient thing to do. You sit in a waiting room with a stack of papers, you're emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. Just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find the store nearest you and book your appointment today. College basketball's nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And right now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, wherever it fits. You mix the spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out, and then apply your profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. So go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. So Kenny Atkinson, I talked about this before last week when he was, whenever that was, 2 weeks ago, when the Cavs were in town, and Kenny Atkinson talked about offensive rebounding And I forget each time, however the question has come up, but we have seen this, the coaches take it in the same direction. Billy Donovan has talked about this before. Kenny Atkinson called it the cheat code of offense now, and that you got to get offensive rebounds and turn those into threes. If you do that, you're going to be successful offensively. Mark Dagnall talked about it when the Thunder were in town. A handful of coaches. And last night, we heard from Jamal Mosley. Basically the same setup of, hey, what's been going well for you guys since the All-Star break? But just overall, how have you embraced this physicality philosophy? And he kind of turned it into offensive rebounding and said, that's the big thing. The possession battles within the game is how you win. You have to try to turn teams over, and you have to try to win the offensive rebounding game. The more possessions you get, the more chances you have to win the game. There's a will and a want. We can talk about it. We can show it on film, but it ultimately comes down to, do you want to do it? And there's technique that takes place. We can get into that on a nightly basis, but it takes energy and effort, two of the favorite words in Bucks fans' vernacular as well. And whether or not you're willing to do this, they go through it in film sessions, Jamal Mosley said, and we'll highlight plays where an offensive rebound occurred and it leads to a point, or we give up a defensive rebound, or we give one up and we don't get a defensive rebound and it leads to more scoring opportunities for the opponent. And we show those on film and show these are possessions that change the game. These are winning plays, and it registers more with the guys that these are the things that we need to do. Quinn Snyder was the other one who less than a week ago said the same thing, that we have to offensive rebound and we're a smaller team. So like we have to do it unconventionally, and it's an all-in approach for all of our guys, that it becomes a team effort. I mean, I cannot tell you how many coaches we've heard basically say the same thing. And you go back to the start of the year where we were all but told, don't worry about offensive rebounding. Like defensive rebounding is what's more important. And just like the approach is clear. It is not an emphasis for this team. They have started to embrace it more, and maybe Darvin Ham gave away a little too much after that Thunder game, but they have embraced it. They have gotten better at it. They're still, I think, 26th in the league overall, somewhere around there in the bottom 4 or so, with being basically league average since the week before the All-Star break. So it shows you, okay, you're leaning into it now, but you were still way too far behind the pack that it's not going to make a difference in the end of season rankings.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that too, when you look at personnel too for the squad, it's going to be a little bit tough. I think that's part of why, like, Jericho Sims over.
Well,
like,
that's also why Quinn Snyder said, like, look, Nick
Okongwu
was 6'7", so like we have to do this as a team. It's not just our bigs.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, where it was like, that's one thing I gave Ryan Rollins credit for. Kevin Porter Jr.
KPJ,
those are two guards in particular who are going to go crash. So again, you lose KPJ and you think of the offense immediately, but like he is one of the guys who tries to go and get the ball. Like he is going to try to rebound for the team. Other guys kind of put their bodies in there, but like it's just not happening on a consistent basis. But it just makes me think a lot more about how the modern NBA is, what it's trending towards. Like this is becoming a part of the game. We've had conversations about smaller point guards and what that means. We've talked about being a person who's going to be hunted defensively and what that means, because the NBA has moved a lot more into where it's not necessarily, if you're a point guard, well, you got to guard the opposing team's point guard. Like that's not how this works anymore. And more teams often than not are going to try to find whoever that weakest defender is and bring them into an action. So it's like, how much can you survive against bigger matchups? Because you're going to have to do that from time to time now in today's NBA. So the Bucks have a lot of things to take a look at this offseason and how they figure out a way to get back into contention, but they are going to have to embrace some more modern aspects of the game, which we thought they were heading that way this season with the rotation being younger. At least we know the team itself is still one of the older teams, but the rotation, the guys you were depending on, became younger than what it was last season. We thought, hey, see them play with some more pace because the NBA is moving a little bit faster now. The pace for the Bucks has dropped this year, actually, in comparison to where they were last year in league standing. So, like, there are a few aspects: the offensive rebounding, the defense, the switchability, just a lot of aspects for this team to kind of consider. How do we revamp this team going forward? We got to kind of identify those guys who can buy into that, do that, and try to make your team able to compete in 26-27.
Yeah, and what I will say, and we've both said this throughout the season too, is the pace can oftentimes be misleading. It's not the be all end all because the Bucks are number 24 in pace right now, but here are the teams that are basically around the Bucks and behind them. So the bottom 10 teams in pace are the Toronto Raptors, the Denver Nuggets, the Knicks, the Bucks, then the teams behind them, the Suns, Hornets, Nets, Clippers, Rockets, and Celtics. So really, the Brooklyn Nets and the Bucks are the two teams that you would look at and say, like, bad teams that are in the bottom 10. Other than that, good teams. It's playing with a purpose, basically.
Exactly.
And do you have an identity and do you know what you're doing and what you're looking to do here? Doesn't matter that you're getting a ton of, your pace is 108 or whatever it was that we've seen Miami start the season at. They're still leading, by the way, Miami is. And there are good teams that are near the top. There are also bad teams that are near. I mean, the Bulls are number 4. The Mavs are number 5. The Wizards are number 6. So the pace isn't so much important. It's what are your possessions versus the possessions that you are giving up and the shot attempts, essentially. And that's what we've learned more than anything this season. That is what's going to dictate everything. And if you're the Bucks, you're not forcing turnovers. Not only you're not forcing turnovers, you're turning the ball over quite a bit. You're not getting enough. You're getting more, but you're not getting enough offensive rebounds, and you haven't been an elite defensive rebounding team. So it all leads to you are giving the opponent more opportunities to score, and they are doing that. Where since the All-Star break, I believe they're 24th in defense, 26th in offense.
That's the part that's still
and yeah, I mean, and when you look at the teams that they're hovering around in terms of net rating, yeah, what really stands out to me in that mix is the Bucks are a negative 11.3 in net rating since the All-Star break with a 4-6 record. The teams that are worse than them are the 0-9 Pacers, the 1-9 Nets, the 2-8 Dallas Mavericks, and then right around there, the 2-8 Wizards, the 3-6 Kings. The Bucks are like that lone team of, you're almost 500 in this group, which tells you a couple of things. Either you are beating bad teams or you're beating teams just slightly, and or when you lose, it's pretty bad. And we've seen both of those.
Been all of that. Yeah, it's been brought all of that for the Bucks so far. When they lose big, as we have discussed already earlier in the show. And I mean, one thing too about this Bucks team that's been just kind of interesting, mentioned like the efficient field goal percentage has been like the one thing they can hang their hat on, but also like the half court offense. It's been like a top 5-6 unit in the NBA this year, and that has completely blown my mind at times where it's like, okay, this half court offense for the Bucks is still one of the league's best. So it's like, again, the whole operation isn't broken for this team. It's just that they're hanging their hat on one thing, but the one thing that they're hanging their hat on, they're not able to generate enough shots to really take advantage of that. And on top of that, as we mentioned, the defense has been so poor that on the nights where the shots aren't falling for them, they don't really seem to have the opportunity to come back because they can't stack enough stops along the way. So I know we're long on time, but it's really making me think, and we're going to have a lot of time this offseason to talk about it, of like the type of players that this team needs to bring in going forward and what that mishmash might look like around this team. Because again, I think some of the bones on this team are really good. I think there are some players on this team that can really play. It's just like, how do we put them in the best position to succeed going forward? And what do we need to add around them? Because I think some things that they've tried out so far this season just haven't worked out. I mean, people are going to point to Miles Turner and that acquisition too, and just being like that we have not gotten what we thought we were going to get from Miles Turner, and not to single him out alone or anything like that, because it's not the only person you can point to. But again, I do think part of that too is also how he's being utilized, but also just the different roles changing back and forth. So, this Bucks team has a lot
to figure out.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot to fix, a lot to figure out. 8 25-point losses this season, the most in franchise history. It is the third most in the league. We'll leave on one more piece of trivia, Camille. Who are the two teams that have more 25-point losses than the Bucks? I already mentioned one during the show, so I suppose it's a good tell if you actually listen to what I say.
Washington is one.
Okay, you do.
Big losses.
I would.
Sacramento.
I was going to say,
like,
I would say,
they
don't overthink this. Washington with 14, Sacramento with 13, but then you have the Bucks with 8 and the Brooklyn Nets with 8. So third most in the league this season. Not great, Bob. Has been basically the theme of the season for the Bucks. All right, there is much more to get into. You mentioned the individual performers. We will start to take a look at who outpaced expectations, who didn't match expectations, some individual player performances, and the path forward, really, because as bleak as all of this has been, there is a path that I cannot stress that enough. Now, it doesn't mean a contender and what we experienced from 2018 through 2022, really? No, not necessarily, probably not in all likelihood, but there is a path. And I'll just say this, you and I were talking about before, look no further than your next opponent to show you how quickly you can steer things in the right direction with a lot of the same personnel if you bring in some different schemes and a modernized approach. So we'll get into that in the coming days as well. That'll do it for today's show, though. For Camille, I am Justin. Will remind you once more, the Everydayer Club exists for everyone that makes this a daily part of their lives. Ad-free episodes of Locked On Bucks, access to the members-only Discord as well. You can find the link to sign up for that in the show notes of today's episode. For those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. And it is a Monday as we record this, so it's a Camille episode that you get in the morning there on Locked On NBA. So make sure you check that one out. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.